welcome to Thrivecast. I am Alan Wallner, the president and visionary of Conscious Branding. And with Thrivecast, our intention is to focus on you, your business, and your success. And with each episode, we discuss at a high level topics to spark new thoughts, generate ideas, and push the boundaries of what we know is familiar. And hopefully, we may even frame up a new mindset to ignite your business forward and inspire action. Now, you're a key component to the health of your business. You're the spark of the vision. You lead the social impact of your business, its value, the brand success, and just the overall outcome of your business. So you need to be there for your clients, team, and your partners. So how do you keep yourself energized while leading your business? Today, we're going to explore unique ways to keep you from burning out and feeling tired all the time and maybe even getting a little cranky. I know that's happened with me. But anyway, we're going to look at non-traditional ways to raise your vibrational energy and protect yourself from what drains your energy. We'll even explore how to leverage a healthy lifestyle to allow you to be present, more present, and successful. Before we get started, though, I'd like to introduce you to our panelists today. We have Heather Nunley. She's the founder and CEO of the Cultural Fuel Group. And Heather works with business leaders to elevate accountability and advance top talent. And she's dedicated to creating workplaces that are more innovative and focused, engaged. And this creates improved results, better retention, and greater customer satisfaction. Heather, it's great to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here with you all.
All right. And then we have Siri Liska, and she's with Embodiment. She's an embodiment catalyst for vibrant joy. And Catherine is a somatic movement therapist and educator, and she provides mentoring experiences for deepening the relationship with your body. And she does that as a basis for moving through life with greater ease, clarity, and self-understanding. Catherine, it's great to have you here today.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Alan.
Sure. Then we have Nancy Clairmont Carr. She's the founder of The Joy Effect. And Nancy leads executives, business owners, and professionals to joy, abundance, and freedom. And this is really unique because she's able to kind of work to kind of have predictability in achieving outcomes. And her approach includes developing higher consciousness and accessing elevated level of thinking and intuition. Nancy, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Alan. I love these kind of panels. So I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I personally, for me, I love today's topic. And my understanding of how emotion, health, and energy all relate to one another has literally changed my life. There was a time when things weren't so great for me. And through much self-work and support and help from others, I came to the realization that how you are on the inside determines kind of what happens on the outside. Yet I still didn't fully understand kind of how everything fit together. And so this has become kind of a huge subject for today. And we're only going to scratch the surface because this is a really deep subject and it's really broad too. But yet, I wanted to bring some things to the table today, some things that you could get to learn about so that you could kind of go a little deeper on your own and learn a little bit more about it today and explore energy and self-care. So with that, a little setup, let's get started. And I'm going to ask kind of our basic question. So when did you guys first realize there was something more happening other than people just working hard and burning themselves out? And, maybe share a little bit of your story or something of that nature. And I was going to start with Heather with this question.
Well, yeah, like you, Alan, I love today's topic because, as you mentioned, my life shifted as a result of learning and digging deeper into this work myself. So I can share with you all that the first chapter of my career, I was in the corporate space as a human resources director. And I worked for several years in the retail industry with Nordstrom, and I spent several more years in the hospitality industry with Marriott. And these big brands, being in that particular role with these big brands came with a lot of responsibility and even a few relocations over the years to Minnesota and Ohio and Virginia. which is where I'm located now. But I got to tell you, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I love my career. I'm not one of those people. There may be some of you on the phone that said, oh, I couldn't wait to leave my corporate job. I actually love mine a lot. My career was really strong, and I thrive with every new opportunity that came my way. Well, not long after my relocation to the DC area, which is where I'm located now in Virginia, I had a major family matter arise involving my youngest child. And after a few months of trying to manage the demands of my work life and my home life energetically, I felt like I could no longer sustain trying to balance it all. I was really stressed. I was really overwhelmed. And with family being such a high value for me, as it likely is for many of you, I chose to opt out of my career. I was thankfully able to at the time. And it was really a heart wrenching decision for me because my heart was very much in both places, at work and at home. But I did what I thought was best at the time. Well, a few short years later, I started to feel a bit of unfulfillment, actually, and that I, had this strong career, and then I just kind of started helping my husband in a family business. It just wasn't enough. Bottom line is, became certified to become a coach, and I'm back on the people development track and back in this work now. But what I realized going through this coaching certification, coaching others as well as being coached myself over the years, is that no regrets at all for leaving corporate. But what I realized is that had I hired a coach, I may have been able to better sort through my thoughts during such a stressful period in time of my life back then.
Mhm.
So that's a lot of the work that I do with people now, helping them to kind of shift perspectives on different ways to manage life and work.
Yeah, it's amazing how they all kind of come together and impact both sides, personal as well as your career. And it just goes beyond all of that. So yeah, that you're definitely setting up kind of a key thing for probably a lot of people, they have
Yeah.
similar struggles, similar situations. Catherine, I'd like to kind of hear a little bit of your story and how you kind of get started in all this.
Oh, and thank you. So Heather, what's interesting is I was in corporate America, similar to you. I loved what I was doing. I was an architect for 20 years. That's what I really decided I wanted to do when I was a teenager. And part of what appealed to me about that was the creative process and the teamwork. And so that was always important. On the side, I always danced. That was the way I kept my sanity. So movement has been the constant for me throughout my life. Similar to you, due to a family crisis and a few things happening, all of a sudden work was no fun anymore, because what was happening is over the course of the 20 years of me being in that field, we became more and more dependent on technology. And the more we became dependent on the technology, which was fine, it seemed like the less was being considered about each person's ability to meet deadlines. It was like, oh, we can speed this up, with no. So I started having issues with, like there's people who are actually getting these projects done, and not just the fact that we have faster computer programs now. So due to that, I basically switched careers. I was having some issues. I had already been studying to be a somatic movement therapist and educator. I love working with people now. So I'm working with people in the environment of their body rather than the environment that they actually go to work in. So I feel like I'm doing something very similar. But for me, I realized when I started going to dance class and I wasn't having fun in dance class, I really had to do something. So change careers, and through Heather, I actually got some coaching and then became certified as a coach and found that helpful for me. So I tend to approach things through listening to your body, being attentive to your body, paying attention to those. So that's my story.
Yeah, it is really important to kind of pay attention to kind of what's happening here and feelings, your emotions really play a lot into kind of energetically how you are. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but I like how you kind of queued that up for us to talk about a little bit down the road. So Nancy, I was hoping to kind of get your take on the story here.
Well, it sounds like we have three strong stories as to why we switched our lifestyle and what was going on. Really, after reaching a major burnout in my life, came to the realization that managing my energy was the most important thing that I could do to really create the lifestyle I desired. And so for the last 20 years, I've been making changes, some tweaks and some major overhauls in ways that allowed me to reduce the stress in my life and really align physical, mental, and emotional energy centers. And I find that as I can optimize each of those centers, I can really maintain a much more sustainable high performance, in everything I do. But it started when I left the corporate world after I was there for quite a while. But that was about 22 years ago. And I was looking for a way to really integrate my purpose and passions where I could optimize my health and also spend time as I wanted to. And that's not easy to do when you're untrained in the corporate world and you're a workaholic, which it sounds like we're probably all there, and probably a lot of you on the call. In fact, I know several of you. I was delighted to see your names on the chat, which is just great. So it became the foundation of my work, helping others to really design work that supported a lifestyle that I wanted, and now that's what I do with others. And so I've gotten certified as a coach and an energy practitioner. And what I find is that it really demands a change in consciousness to be able to maintain a sustained high performance level. And so that's really what I work to do with people. And from a cultural standpoint in the workplace, since I was there for quite a while, I remember that it was really about I loved what I did, but it was being a slave to the demands of the owners and all the people who made the rules. And that just didn't work for me anymore. So freedom is one of my most important values, and I wanted to be able to express that in everything I did. So I feel now that being authentic, speaking my truth, and helping others do that is, that's really the most important thing. And so that's really powerful motivation for me to help people move forward.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, from what all three of you have been saying, it sounds like being able to be fulfilled, kind of working with your purpose, as well as having fun, are key elements for everyone. And what I've also heard from each of you is that stress is a pretty big player in terms of how you emotionally are able to show up in that work environment, and also how that determines to some degree how fulfilled or even how happy you are in that job also. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to kind of our next question here, because all this stuff is interrelated, our personal life as well as work, our careers, and it's at an emotional and energetic level. So how significantly does your energy and emotional level when they're working for you, how do they, I guess, how do they affect your outcome for success? Do they have an impact on that? And I guess we'll get into a little bit more around that, but we're going to start with Catherine to kind of learn a little bit more about how kind of energy and your emotion can impact your success.
Our energy and our emotion direct everything we do. So increasing our awareness, being self-reflective, and beginning to just really pay attention that we have this intertwining. So I use my hands a lot when I speak. Here we go. Intertwining of the mind. We have these ideas and our mental processes are going all the time. And underlying that is all these emotions that, and a lot of times we just stuff them in a little box and we put them off in the corner, right? And we have to do that when we're at work with other people. But the more that we do that and the more that we don't deal with them, the more they're just kind of weighing us down. I think of it as like this big backpack that just starts like making you hunch over as you're going to work. So as you can just posture wise, everybody, if you sit up really tall, you're going to feel different. Everybody take a deep breath and sit tall. And now just like feel the weight of the world on your shoulders and slump over. And just feel what that does to your breath. And this is how most of us go to work every day, right? So they're really intertwined, and everybody come out of that. So you're who you are. Don't want to keep you in that state, but they're so, it's so important to become aware that we have a choice. And number one, we have a body that we can do things to, but number two, we can become aware that we have a body. So that's the first step. And then number three, we begin to realize that everything we do in life happens because we're moving in our body, energy's flowing in our body. Everything we're thinking about and doing about in our life is coming through our body. So just a simple thing like we just did, posture and breath, brings us into the moment, takes us out of our mental, because I think a lot of the mind and emotional stuff is because we get so stuck outside of our body. We don't come in. We're not aware of who we are. And I think I'll just pause with that and let somebody else speak. Thank you.
No, that was really good, because it even shows how your energy and your emotions impact how you're able to even breathe.
Yeah.
And then not having a full breath, that has to impact how you're functioning on a regular basis as well. So Nancy, I'd like to hear your perspective around all this.
So you're asking how much does our personal and professional lives sort of interact at an emotional and energetic level? Well, I see it, for me, it's almost one and the same. I am the same at work that I am talking to my husband, talking to my children. Well, not all of them, but most of them that they're adult now. But the idea is that when I'm aligned, that all of my three energy centers, I call them three energy centers, physical, mental, and emotional. When they're all aligned, then I can be authentic. I can be present to do just what Catherine is saying, to be present in the moment to whoever I'm working with. And so I've done a ton of work over the years to get to a point where I can become and stay aligned. And so that's really important. And that helps me be consistent with my emotions, because I think what we're really talking about is how do we maintain our energy? How do we manage that energy? And if your emotions aren't in check, as Catherine referenced, it's hard to be present and to be there for whoever we want to be there for, including ourselves, right? So I really focus on increasing consciousness. And what I've found in doing that is it brings so much benefit to life overall, because the more we can raise our vibration, increase our consciousness, so many things become available to us. We are able to access our consciousness better. We are able to access our higher brain thinking better, our intuition. And we're able to, really follow our own guidance system. And when you're doing that, when you're able to follow your own guidance system, for me, that helps with the whole alignment and just maintaining more of an even keel. And I guess bottom line for me is if I don't feel joyful, if I don't feel abundant, and if I don't feel like I have freedom to express myself, then I need to go back and do more work. So for me, that's the key of maintaining that energetic balance. And that's what I teach. That's what I help people accomplish.
Sure. Yeah, because if you're in a lower energetic state, you're more in depressed or angry or frustrated. So you kind of live in that world more. So in order to achieve a successful outcome, it's kind of tough. You have to get out of that energetic state in order to get there, so that you're at a higher level of, just loving what you do, feeling fulfilled, and, having a joyful day.
Well, and actually what you just said, I just want to comment on it because it's really, really key, Alan. the more you are in the lower vibrational states, the more you attract that. And so it is a very much of a downward cycle. And so being able to recognize and find yourself there when you're off balance is, Catherine talked about creating awareness. That's a really important step to getting out of that cycle. And there's lots of things you can do to do that. But that awareness, that presence of, where you're at is kind of a first step to needing to determine where you're going.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Heather, I'd like to hear your perspective on this, because I know you bring in some unique things with how you take a look at energy and emotion with the people you work with.
Yeah. So, and I'm in complete agreement with both Catherine and Nancy as it relates to this, because our overall energetic self-perception can impact both our life and our work choices that we make in our lives. And I work with clients using an assessment. It's called the ELI. It's the Energy Leadership Index, but it's an attitudinal type of an assessment. So not personality or anything like that, but it's a tool that really helps you to capture how an individual currently perceives and approaches their work in life. So as Nancy just mentioned, with that level of awareness and the insights that are gained through that, I work with clients with an opportunity to kind of reshape what their attitudes and worldview and transform who they are. So that energy influences us because it kind of forms a lens through which how we perceive the world. So the basis of the work that I do, it's called core energy coaching. And it's your typical coaching that you would do where, questions are asked of the client to help them kind of reveal of themselves to themselves. But there are 7 different energy levels, and I call them leadership levels because it's real. What we're really looking at is how are you leading yourself on a day-to-day basis? So those 7 levels describe the type of energy that a person experiences and expresses. And it's also, well, I can share with you what those levels are. I'll give you, it goes pretty deep, but I'm going to keep it pretty high level. So with the lower level, that's where we might feel like we have a lack of choice in a circumstance. Something happens in the outside world and we feel like, gosh, a little bit of that victim sense of energy, like I can't, or I have to, or maybe even fear. The second level is made up of like feelings of anger or combativeness. And then that third level is where we're kind of rationalizing, everything is fine, everything's going to be okay. The fourth level is where we may demonstrate some care and compassion. Fifth level is usually where we're looking for that win-win situation. The sixth level is where our intuition really comes into play and our creative genius really stands out and shows up for us. And then that top 7th level is where there's complete passion for all aspects of life. So that's where we feel that, those feelings of joy and that type of thing. But here's the thing, we all cycle up and down the spectrum of all of these different energetic experiences that I just shared with you. And rarely do we hang out at any one level for a period of time. So depending upon what's going on in your life, you could be at any one of those levels. They're there and they're meant to serve us. But as has already been mentioned, it's really more so a matter of awareness of where do you stand and do you want to be there, and how might you shift to a different level in order to take the action that you're feeling as though you want to take at a given time.
Sure. Well, wow. What I'm hearing here from kind of all 3 of you is that there's different levels of emotion. You can kind of categorize or figure out where you are on that scale from low to high. And then by understanding where you are on there, we are kind of responsible for ourselves and our emotion, how we're feeling. And it's up to us to kind of work ourselves up and down that ladder, or preferably up that ladder rather than down that ladder. And that the assessment tool that you had mentioned is kind of one way of taking a look at emotions and, am I lower or am I higher? And then kind of working your way up the ladder so that, at least now you have a benchmark and you can kind of work on it. And I guess what I'm also hearing all of you say is that you're always moving around on this energy ladder. You're never in one place all the time. So if someone may be feeling down one day or really depressed, you shouldn't be getting on yourself and kind of get stuck and start going in that vortex. You know, it's you can alter and work on it so that you can work yourself out of that. It isn't like, oh, I'm stuck here now and I can't get out. And
Yes.
that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, you're spot on, Alan, with exactly what you're saying there, because it really doesn't help to, you know, self-deprecate and that sort of thing. Where, you know, it's best to actually experience, feel the emotion that's occurring, and, you know, give it some time and space and kind of breathe through it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, definitely. I'm gonna bring in another piece of this, because kind of our experiences in our environments also kind of impact how we're feeling emotionally. And as leaders, you know, things that have happened in our past, our experiences and beliefs and behaviors can, in a sense, hold us back. And they also maybe generate some type of an emotional level at which we may be at. So what are your kind of top two ways to kind of work with changing and removing these emotional barriers so that you can kind of work your way up to a higher energetic emotional level, so that you can start learning to navigate yourself upward on that ladder? And with that, I'll start with Nancy.
Well, this is my favorite question of all, because this is at the core of what I do for people and with people. And really understanding this is, to me, at the core of transformation. So I use multiple strategies from an energetic standpoint. I'm certified in a lot of different modalities. And the focus of what I do, though, is to increase consciousness, as I described earlier. And so using energy healing is a way to address the patterns that we come in with, and that could be ancestral in other lifetimes. And then also we learn certain things growing up. And so as it is, we have beliefs which cause thoughts, which cause actions, which cause our results. We all know that arrow diagram. And so by getting to that core belief of what is blocking you from moving in the direction you want to move, that's really what has to happen. So from a practical standpoint, how can we do that if we want to work like maybe just on our own? I like to tell people and guide them to say, start looking at the patterns in your life. What are some of the patterns that you find yourself that are really dominant? Because we all have habits and patterns that we resort to. And those patterns and habits are what lead to our outcomes. So once you can establish perhaps what that pattern is, you can backtrack maybe, what is the belief that caused me to behave that way all the time? So if you can backtrack yourself to get to that belief, you can then start to identify the intention you have to change. And so this is a long-winded way of saying intentions are what we need to get to know where we want to go. And one of the keys I've learned over the years through my energy practice and my coaching is energy follows intention. So whether you get to the core belief and you absolutely know what that is and you want to change that and set that as an intention, or you don't really know what's causing you to do it, maybe it's some ancestral thing that's happening, you just know what you keep doing, you can set the intention around the change you want. So you could want a change to remove a pattern or a habit, or you could have a change that you want to bring in abundance, maybe. So you could be wanting to release stuff, or you could be wanting to bring in positive energy. The point is, establishing an intention is the first step. And lucky for us, nature is really a beautiful thing, and it will always deliver energy to support that intention. The problem I find is most people don't even take the time to decide what they want. Once they do decide, very few write it down, which you all know. I'm not going to go into the studies. Even further, stay committed to it. So a committed intention you will get where you want to go. So that's, to me, one of the most important things that we need to remember is energy follows intention. And so if you can commit to something that you really want to do, you're going to get nature's support. The second thing you can do, and I think people just forget to do this, is you can ask for help. We're energetic beings. We're human beings, but we're really energetic beings having a human experience. So we actually have a lot of other energetic beings that we can ask for help from. And I tell my clients this all the time. All you have to do is ask. And so who do we ask? Well, we ask the angels, we ask the universe, you ask your guides, maybe your higher self, whoever it is you turn to. God, I don't care what word you're using, but I can't tell you the profound outcome of asking for help and doing it often. By doing that, these are ways that we can simply, as individuals, move forward at the greatest speed. And of course, there's all kinds of meditation and stuff like that we can do independently as well. So these are things you can do individually. And of course, professionally, getting an energy practitioner to remove the patterns that are in the way or remove the blocks or the limiting beliefs, your transformation is going to happen about 35% faster. And I've been doing this work a long time, and I actually track my outcomes with my clients. And so I know how to get that transformation happening faster. But, people have all kinds of perceived limitations. Maybe they don't have a budget they want to use on a professional, or maybe they just are do-it-yourself people, and that's okay. So I'm just trying to give you options for how to think about it, how to frame it up for yourself, that you can, by setting your intention, asking for help, you can do a lot on your own. And there's just a whole lot more you can do if you want to get outside help. But either way, there's no excuse for staying in a rut. I guess I want to leave it with that.
Yeah.
I just want to say one last thing on that. My
Sure.
whole life has been optimizing every single aspect of my life. And as I say, sometimes I will do tweaks and sometimes I'll do major overhauls. But I could talk all day about how to move forward on this topic, and Alan knows me quite well, so I won't take up too much more time, but we have a lot of options, and knowing that we don't have to stay with what we came into life with, that we can, it's like Michelangelo, he just chips away the excess that he doesn't need in his paintings and in the David, and he ends up with this perfect final form. And that's what we are. We're perfect. We just need to sort of chip away at the things that don't serve us.
Yeah, so I heard you say kind of two things. So energy follows intention. So it's always putting some intentions together. And the key thing with doing the intentions is act and do the things you can impact or change. But the things that you can't, don't worry about them and don't stew about them, and basically put those out in the ether and ask for help and guidance around that, and then kind of surrender to it and see what shows up. Is kind of how we're doing. Okay. All right. Well, then I think there's some good things to definitely start learning and diving into a little bit around all that. I'd love to hear kind of what Heather has to say too around the subject.
Yeah, there's two ways that I work to change my personal beliefs and behaviors that don't serve me. And the first one is I set an intention. And this was last year, 2019. There's a habit that I dipped in and out of it pretty much my whole life, but I set it last year, and I'm going on about 20 months now of sticking with it. And that is that I started my morning each day with a self-awareness practice. Like I said, I've been able to kind of do it and then stop, but I quit quitting as of about almost 2 years ago now. And what that includes for me, and when I say self-awareness practice, is I write down anything that I might be thinking, literally blank page, and I'll just write down whatever thoughts that come to mind. Some may be work related, some may be family, personal. I may beat myself up, but I put it all on paper, to get it out each morning. And then I'll take just one of those thoughts and I analyze it. And believe it or not, this sounds like a long process, but I've gotten it down. I've been at it for a while. It really only takes me about 15 minutes. But I'll sit and I'll analyze that thought and really consider, do I want to challenge that thought? Whether it's a thought that's really worth keeping for me, or if
Yep.
it's getting in the way of how I might proceed with my day. And if so, I'll change that thought to a more intentional thought. And as we know, the thoughts and follow the feelings, then the actions, and then the results. So if I'm looking to get a different result out of myself, I've got to go back up and take a look at what those thoughts are that I'm thinking. Sometimes I'll even write that new thought down on a Post-it note and keep it right at my computer for the day as my thought of the day, so that I'll remind myself throughout the day. But the other thing that I do is to remove any unwanted energy, and really just to feel good, is through movement. I walk most every day, if not every other day if I skip a day, but that's been a pattern that I've kept for quite some time as well, just to get my body moving in that way. And I'll do some strength training here and there as well. But yeah, so those are the two things that I do. It's that morning practice that I've got, as well as the movement that I'm sure to incorporate on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I like how you're starting the day with an intention, and then spending some time documenting your thoughts around these intentions, and maybe even looking at what are the truths around that, so that you can really look at, okay, what's really happening here, and how can I move forward with this? I like that. And then also then energetically removing anything else that's residual that goes along with that by exercise, and getting that out of your body. I like that. That's great. All right, Catherine, I'd like to hear your perspective on this.
Well, this is great. It's like the two of you have set yourselves up for me to continue, because basically I agree with everything that you've been saying. You know, of course, I have my own little twist on this. So my first thing that I would say is, this is when I work with people, it's about what is the most like supportive action I can take in this moment, right? So that's the ongoing question that I encourage people to ask. So I have this 4-step process. Step one is that it's part of tuning into yourself. And step one is to just be curious. Like, let yourself drop out of having an opinion, of saying what's going on, you know, or saying, I have this way of doing things. Drop into curiosity. Number two, just slow down and take a few breaths. Because if you can do that, there's this place of being quiet with yourself that you can find everything. So I always talk about how everything moves all the time. And the trick is for each of us to be leaders of ourselves first, and then with others, is to recognize that within stillness, we can be in the flow of our own personal alignment, okay? And by taking a few breaths, and once we can kind of get there, and then once we're there, we can we're managing ourselves so that we can start influencing other people. Right?
Yeah,
Because
I like
that's
that.
what it's about. We're in business, right? And we're in the business of being happy in our lives. But this particular, you know, topic today is we're talking about how do we take this into our business. So, you know, we're curious, you know, you have to make an important phone call, whatever. Slow down, take a breath. Number three, start paying attention to what's going on in your body and your mind. Just take a moment to do that. Where are you holding tension? Do you have thoughts spinning through? Are they true or not? Right? What am I telling myself? So that's the paying attention. This is about discernment, figuring where I am in this moment. And then I love, you know, the visualize and imagine. Both Nancy and Heather talked about this. I use this a lot because our movement can actually become more easy if we just visualize and imagine ourselves doing it first and then do it. Okay, so imagine yourself walking really easily if you've been limping for a while, and then getting up and walking after you've imagined yourself doing it. So that kind of can help. But what I want to say to that is even more specifically, a personal example. The visualize and imagine I've used in my life. I'm not the best writer. I like to write longhand, but I love images. And what I found with myself is about 3 years ago, I started taking 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, and I either type words or write them on it, and maybe collect some images. I do a lot of it on the computer, but I'll have an idea of something I want to do, and I'll just put all the things that support that idea down. And it's like a little mini vision board, but I'm not going to a class and doing it. And I just hang those on my wall. And what I found was if I do one of those, and I'm not really as outcome oriented as it's got to be specifically that way, but I'm trying to bring that energy in. Literally every time I do one of those, all of that becomes true and accomplishes usually within 3 months for me. It's just amazing. So whether you're a writer or whether you're a more visual person, I'm going to encourage you to think about that as another way to do it, because it's really, really supportive. I found it for me. So that's the 4-step process. And then number 2, so once that's the first thing I do is that tuning in the 4-step process. Number 2 is commit to change. Okay. Because I call it the intentional change process. It takes, neuroscience has shown that to really start to eradicate a habit and to start a new habit, it's a 40 to 42 day process, right? So if you want to bring something new into your life, start doing it every day, right? Commit to it. If you want to stop doing something, try to, do your best. In fact, that's one thing. Leave out the word try. I'm still working on that one myself, but I'm not going to, I'm going to quit doing this, whatever it is. And that and don't beat yourself up if it doesn't happen right away. But so this basically recognizing that there is going to be in a period of adjustment and going in with that flow, and realizing that, returning to the previous question, life is dynamic balance. I remember like being kind of taught as a child that balance, like you put something on a scale, and when it did this, it was balanced. But as a somatic movement therapist and educator, I've started to realize the way the body is designed, because we experience the world through our bodies. If you try to keep your body like this, you will never be, you're going to fall one way or the other, because it's always about moving and flowing and being able, when I can get a client to be able to fall in any direction and not hurt themselves, that's perfect balance. And that's what we're all doing every day in our lives, in our personal lives, in our business. The way we keep things balanced is by just continually making those little adjustments. And so that commit to change is about, how do I make those little adjustments every single day, every single moment, to be with myself and do the most supportive thing that will help me now. And how can I do it with the greatest ease? That's the second question I ask. How can I do it with the greatest ease, right? Find the ease.
I like that. Yeah, I love the 4-step process, and the fact that it doesn't have to be difficult. It's just a matter of making a commitment and being consistent with it, and kind of adjusting your mental attitude around it as well. So I really like that. Another thing that sort of came out in this conversation is the words you're using. I think, Catherine, you said, don't beat yourself up over it. How you're talking to yourself really plays into a lot of how you are energetically as well. If you're always saying, God, how stupid am I? That's sending some pretty negative energy toward yourself. So it's even really watching the words you use to talk about something, or talk to yourself, and how you're explaining. If someone asks you, hey, how's your day going? You can either say, I'm having a really good day, or, today sucks. Well, of course, then your day is going to continue that way. but you can energetically with your words kind of improve your energetic state as well and how you're feeling. So I wanted to throw that in. And then even on Heather's comment earlier with her journaling, a gratitude journal is another way to do that, to kind of bring that energy level up. So just some other things I've heard people mention in the past that seem to be tying in with what you guys are all talking about. But definitely things don't have to be difficult. It's just a matter of doing them and taking action.
And I
Yeah,
think
go ahead.
I'm just going to chime in here because every person who comes to me, and I'm sure this happens with Nancy and Heather too, it's about you figuring out what works best for you. And I always call it
Yep.
creating your own personal toolkit, right? We have to create our own toolkit to get us through those moments every day. So finding the stuff that really trips your trigger and brings you more joy and helps you get over the humps.
All right. Yes, definitely. So we've got probably about 10 more minutes here. And there was one really good question that I wanted to ask you guys yet, and so maybe we'll go there and maybe we can shorten our answers a little bit. But since energy is kind of a defining characteristic of leadership and how you can generate more energy and the right energy for leading people in teams, organizations, and your community. So what 2 ways can you go about creating your energy? Here we talked about like removing barriers to kind of get things out of the way to get you so you can start getting out of a stuck lower level of energy. But now say, okay, I'm feeling pretty good today, but now I really want to get up higher with joy. How do you actually go and create that energy so that you can sustain that and basically, start sharing it out with other people? So at some degree here, we're gonna have to kind of protect ourselves too, so we don't give everyone our energy and drain ourselves. So how do you create that level of energy, keep yourself sustaining, but also kind of bring it to your culture, to your community, to people around you? So with that, Heather, I'd like to hear kind of your perspective around that.
Yeah, I would, there's 2 things that come to mind for me. One is recognizing that there are 2 types of energy, and I'll share that with you. The other one is recognizing that it's really important to figure out what gets in your way specifically. So when I say recognizing there are 2 types of energy, what I teach is that there is your anabolic energy, which is really uplifting and takes us to like higher thinking. And then there's the catabolic energy, which can block you. And quite honestly, you may not even know it because it can show itself in you simply being sad or being impatient or judgmental or tired or overly self-critical or bored. So you want to make changes, but sometimes we don't know how, and that self-doubt can sometimes poke at us. And you'll literally be at a standstill. I'm experienced when I'm saying that. Literally deadlocked at times. So there's that piece that you want to recognize that, okay, there's 2 different types, one that can really uplift and one that can kind of get me into a lower energetic space. The other is, like I said, figuring out what's important, what gets in your way. So what is blocking you? It could be something external. So something out in the world that you have really no control over. Or it could be an inner block that you're dealing with, which are internal things that we might create or even believe in. And those inner blocks are usually assumptions or interpretations we might make or limiting beliefs. So if your personal belief system is not working for you in a positive and healthy way, you can change it.
All right. Love that. All right. Catherine, I'd like to hear your perspective around this.
Well, for me, bringing energy to leadership, when I'm around people who are so comfortable in their skin, right? That's, to me, even if they're not trying to lead, they're leading. So I guess I wholly agree with everything Heather's saying. Absolutely. there's this piece about understanding that, like, okay, I'm going to go for instance, so if you work with Heather's stuff, but now you know you've got a presentation, right? And it's maybe a little, always like get your juices going a little bit. There's two ways you can go with that. You can spin off into your mind and let that anxiety take you kind of into that nervous system energy, or you can take a few deep breaths and say, hey, this energy is fuel for me to stand on my 2 feet or sit and just take action. Because there is that state as all of us in leadership, whether it's just in our own family, whether it's doing something for ourselves, leading ourselves, or whether it's for our business, there's going to be constant things that come up in our lives that are going to create a little fear or a little anxiety. And the way that you move through that is to just do that embodiment piece. Maybe you have to shake yourself a little bit to get rid of nervous energy, take a deep breath, move forward. But for me, that's what I could add to what Heather has, because I think everything that she presented is great. But come into your body.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you saying is, even if you are in a situation where the energy is draining you, you can, I guess, redirect or realign with a different type of energy so that you actually create more energy for yourself.
You can, yeah, and it can be a very conscious choice. I've done it many times myself, and it takes a little training, a little practice, but it's like you can flip the switch. We have like a little light switch, an energy switch, and you can just flip it back on, or you can take that current that's pulling you down and say, okay, I'm going to step out of fear, move into my heart, move into courage.
Mhm.
I know I've got this, and I'm going to take action and move forward because it's important and I'm going to do this. So
Yeah, and I think the other thing you touched on is when someone comes into the room, you can sense that individual's energy. So
Oh, yeah.
if you're able to keep yourself at a higher energetic level, that is one way that you can bring your energy in a leadership position for your team, for your organization, for the community, is by kind of not having that low energy, but adjusting it to that energy that you can give out to other people without draining yourself. And it's more charismatic, and people want to be around you because they feel better, and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of things that play into energy and being able to keep yourself at a higher level. Great. So Nancy, I'd like to hear your perspective on this here.
Well, I'll take a little bit of a different angle because I think Heather and Catherine did a great job of how to turn the switch internally. I work a lot with conscious leadership and how to create conscious leaders. And when I talk about conscious leadership, I talk about, my meaning is that we are operating from our truth to a significant degree. In other words, we, as Catherine said, we are good in our skin because we've come to a place where we have found our sense of who we are. We're willing to stand up for our values, and we encourage others to do the same. So a conscious leader to me is one who acts that way and helps others bring that out in them. So one of the ways we can do that is by structuring our environment in a way that supports that. As a conscious person, one of the things I coach on is remove the distractions in your life that cause you to go down the rabbit hole. Remove those things that cause you to feel less than energetic, less than productive. And just create the circle of people around you that support where you're going in life. So in every single way that you can, structure an environment that supports who you want to be, who you are, and that authentic person within. And if you're the leader of an organization, you're going to want to help support others to have that at work, right? And you want to support them to be able to bring their gifts to work and to be who they are as well. So I think focusing on what conscious leadership really is and how to structure that environment so that the people around us feel great about being themselves, being authentic, and being able to offer the best of who they are. So I guess I'll offer that.
Yeah, I really like that. Definitely your environment has a lot to do with everything, and being able to create an environment that you can sustain the level of energy that you'd like to be at is very, very important. And also removing distractions as part of that environment. I really like that.
Yeah, that's so
So
true.
wow, a lot of good stuff here today. And we're out of time, and I know we could sit here and probably talk about this for weeks. It's just a good subject, and there's so much around this, and it's key to how we can show up every day. It's key to how we can lead and basically achieve the things we want to achieve. So I'd like to thank our panelists for being here today and sharing their insights and wisdom. And I'd like to thank you all for attending. And I hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And if you have any follow-up questions, we didn't get any in here through the chat. So if you think of something afterwards, by all means, send that question to info@consciousbranding.com. And we'd be more than happy to kind of help follow up and answer that question. If I don't know the answer to it, I'll forward it on to Nancy, Catherine, or Heather. But also on our landing page, you'll be able to reach out and ask them directly too, if you'd like to. And we'll be sending up a follow-up link with a link to the recording of this episode, along with some great bonus material that everyone's going to be providing for you as well around this topic. So, and feel free to share this with other business owners you think would be interested. And really want to thank you for being here. So I look forward to seeing you in January. And remember, you create your world, so believe in your vision, drive it with purpose, and above all, take action. So until next time, be remarkable and have a wonderful holiday.